Hello, LexiWibers. Please remember to subscribe, like, and leave a comment.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to another deep dive. It is honestly so good to have you with us again.
It really is.
We are diving back into the shadows of history today, and I have to say, looking at the community engagement lately, it's been amazing.
Oh, incredible. I've been reading through the comments on the last few analyses we did, and the theories you all are coming up with are just fantastic.
It's why we do this. Your support really keeps the shadows dancing here at LexiWibe.
It really does. And today, we are tackling a story that I think everyone thinks they know,
Oh, for sure.
but almost no one actually understands. We are talking about the melody that never ended.
The Pied Piper of Hamelin.
Hmm.
You know, I feel like for most of us, this is firmly in the category of like Disney movie or bedtime story. It's something you hear when you're 5 years old. But you've brought a stack of sources today that suggests, well, something else entirely.
That is the common perception, isn't it? And you've probably seen the cinematic version we recently released on the LexiWibe channel. The visuals, the music, the drama. It's a beautiful piece of art.
It really is stunning.
But the mission of this deep dive is different. We aren't just retelling a fairy tale here. We are moving past the storybook version to uncover the disturbing truths hidden inside that narrative.
Because when you actually peel back the layers, and I was reading through the notes you prepared late last night, this isn't just a story about some whimsical guy with a flute.
None at all.
It's about a specific time, a specific place, and a mystery that has lasted for centuries.
And that's the hook today. The central chilling question we have to answer is, what actually happened to the 130 children of Hamelin? Because they didn't just vanish into a storybook metaphor. The historical record, which we will get to, suggests something physically happened to them.
That is a terrifying thought to kick things off with. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to understand the tragic end, we have to start at the beginning. And the beginning, according to the sources we have, was actually pretty perfect.
It really was.
It wasn't always a horror story.
No, not at all. If you look at the transcript from our video source, it describes the village before the tragedy in this incredibly idyllic way. Hamelin, tucked between whispering forests and rolling green hills. It's the classic medieval ideal.
The source paints a very specific picture. It mentions a crystal clear river running through the town like a ribbon of silver.
Yeah.
It emphasizes that life there was simple. Honest work, neighbors you could trust with anything. And it feels like the kind of place where you don't lock your doors.
You don't even think about it. You know everyone within a 10-mile radius. It's a true community, a haven of trust.
Exactly.
And the most important detail for me, the thing that really sets the stakes here, is the soundscape of the village. The source mentions the real music of the village wasn't instruments or songs.
It was the sound of children laughing.
Yes, that was the heartbeat of the town.
Yeah, hearing their bare feet drumming on the cobblestones. It sounds like paradise. But in these stories, paradise is usually just a setup for the fall, isn't it?
Paradise is incredibly fragile, and that's a key theme here. Even the most perfect piece can shatter. And for Hamelin, the shattering didn't happen all at once.
It wasn't an army marching over the hill with banners flying.
No, it started quietly, insidiously.
This is the part that gets me. It wasn't an explosion. It was a scratch.
A low-hanging moon, a quiet night,
Yeah.
and just scratch, scratch in the walls.
It's the kind of noise you ignore, right? You're in bed, you hear something, you think, it's nothing, just the wind of the house settling. You roll over and go back to sleep because you feel safe.
Of course. It's just a house noise. But then another person hears it, and another, and it wasn't the wind. The source traces the auditory progression of this invasion perfectly.
It escalates.
It goes from that singular scratch to scratch, squeak, scurry, and then by the time the sun comes up, the nightmare has arrived.
And we aren't talking about a couple of mice in the pantry. This isn't a pest control problem where you just go buy a couple of traps.
Oh no, we are talking about a flood, a living tide of them. The source describes it as a monstrous thing.
Yeah.
Dozens becoming hundreds, hundreds becoming thousands, pouring out of the forest like a living, breathing carpet of fur and teeth.
The sensory details in the account are just horrifying. It's not just seeing them, it's the destruction of the livelihood. Grain stores, completely destroyed. But the worst part for me is the sound.
The sound is everything.
The source says the cries of scared babies were drowned out by the constant skittering of feet.
That is a terrifying image. It creates a total sensory overload. You have to imagine the smell, the noise, there's a sheer lack of sleep.
A filth.
The psychological toll on the village must have been immense. It wasn't just about lost food, it was about the loss of identity. The village lost its name. It became known only as the Village of Rats.
And that breaks down the community. You mentioned earlier this was a place of friendly neighbors, unlocked doors, but under this kind of pressure.
All of that is gone.
What happens to that trust when you haven't slept in a week and your food is gone?
The warmth evaporates. It's a survival situation now. The source describes the villagers marching on the mayor's house. Their voices aren't neighborly anymore. They're sharp, filled with fear and exhaustion.
Desperate.
They are looking for someone to blame or someone to save them.
They're screaming, "You have to do something. We can't live like this."
And the mayor? He's just a mask of worry at this point. He tries everything. Hunters, poisons, traps. Prayer. Nothing works. The rats were relentless. It was as if the plague itself was laughing at them. The leadership was completely impotent.
So you have a town on the brink, total despair, the social contract is breaking down. And that is exactly when the stranger walks in.
The timing is theatrical almost. Bleak afternoon, a gray world drained of color, and then this splash of vibrancy.
I love the description of him. Sharp, bright eyes, calm face, and that silver flute on his back.
Gleaming like it had its own light. The visual contrast is so important. He represents something other. He isn't from Hamelin. He isn't tired. He isn't dirty. He represents something outside of their chaos.
And there's that really strange detail.
Yes. The source notes that when he walked into the village square, the sea of rats parted for him.
That should have been the first red flag, honestly. If the thing that is terrorizing you is afraid of this guy, maybe you should be afraid of him too.
You'd think so, but they're not thinking logically.
No, they're desperate. So they enter negotiations.
The transaction. This is the pivot point of the entire narrative. The stranger makes a very simple offer. I will remove every single rat.
But not for free.
Never for free. The price was 100 gold coins.
Which, back then, put that in context for us, is that a week's wages? A month's?
That is a fortune, an absolute fortune. It's more money than most of those villagers would see in a lifetime. It represents a significant portion of the town's treasury.
So this isn't a casual expense.
Not at all. You can hear the crowd gasp in the narrative when he names the price. It's exorbitant.
Oh, the mayor. He's the one holding the purse strings. He has to know this is a huge hit to the budget.
He's tired. He's cynical. You can see the greed fighting with his duty in his eyes. But he looks at his desperate people. He looks at the rats destroying his town. And he makes the call.
He makes the promise.
He says, if you can really do it, the gold is yours.
He agrees to the contract. That's the binding moment.
He agrees, and that's vital to everything that comes next. He says the words, he strikes the bargain publicly in front of everyone.
So the piper goes to work. And here's where it gets really interesting. The music. It wasn't just noise. It wasn't just a catchy tune.
Yeah.
The source calls it pure magic.
Sweet but commanding. It had a hypnotic effect. The rats didn't just run away in fear. Their eyes glazed over. They formed a silent, disciplined army.
That is so creepy. It's unnatural. It's like mind control.
It is. He leads them out of the village, through the fields, right to the wide, dark river, and he walks right into the current.
And they just follow him, like lemmings.
Every single one, drowning in the water. The source emphasizes the totality of it. Not a single rat was left breathing in Hamelin. The plague was washed away.
And then, silence.
The deep, total silence of relief. The nightmare is over. The village celebrates. They have their home back. They probably slept through the night for the first time in weeks.
A real deep sleep. But the story doesn't end there. Because now, the bill is due.
The debt must be paid. The piper returns to the mayor's house. He's done the job. A promise was made. But the mayor's attitude has completely shifted.
Yeah, the desperation is gone. Now that the rats are gone, he's back to being arrogant. It's like when you have a toothache, you'd pay anything to fix it.
Anything.
But once the tooth is out, you look at the dentist bill and go, wait a minute, was it really that hard?
It's a classic shift in power dynamics. When he needed the piper, he would promise anything. Now that the problem is solved, the piper is just a nuisance. The mayor laughs at him.
He insults him.
He calls the music a simple little tune and offers him 10 coins.
10 coins.
Yeah.
From 110.
Yeah.
That's not just a negotiation, it's a slap in the face.
It's a breach of contract, a flagrant one. And the piper's reaction is what fascinates me. He doesn't scream, he doesn't argue, he doesn't threaten to bring the rats back.
No, the source says he went cold. Cold, hard stillness.
He simply turns his back and walks away. No protest, just calculating.
That is so much scarier than yelling. Silence is always scarier than noise because you don't know what comes next.
Absolutely, because it implies that the time for negotiation is over. The mayor, completely blinded by his own greed, thinks he's won.
He thinks he outsmarted him.
He saved the town money. He thinks he's a shrewd politician, but he has no idea what he's actually cost them.
Which brings us to the next morning, the second melody.
This one was different. The source makes a point of contrasting it with the rat song. It wasn't commanding or harsh. It was sweet, gentle. It called to the soul.
But not everyone's soul.
Only the children.
Just imagine that for a second. You're a parent. You're waking up, maybe getting breakfast ready, and suddenly your child's face just lights up. They're smiling, laughing at something you can't hear.
Pure, innocent joy. They step out of their homes one by one, forming this little procession, an innocent version of the grim parade from the day before.
And at first, the parents are confused, maybe even a little proud. Look at how happy they are.
For a moment, yes, but then the feeling curdles. The source describes a dawning, sickening horror.
They connect the dots.
They realize what the song is for. They realize who is playing it. The stranger wasn't done.
Panic. Absolute panic in the streets.
Parents screaming, running frantically, but, and this is the detail that just hurts, their cries were swallowed by the music.
The children couldn't hear them.
They were locked in the melody, completely entranced.
And the mayor, where is he while his town is being emptied of his future?
Frozen, ashen-faced. The source says he was crushed by the weight of his broken promise. He realized in that one horrible moment that the 100 gold coins were nothing compared to this.
A rounding error.
He was watching the future of his village walk away because he wanted to save a few coins.
The piper leads them away, a silhouette against the rising sun, over the hills and far away, to a place of no return.
And then the silence returns to the village. But it's not the silence of relief this time. It's a heavy, suffocating silence, filled with regret and the phantom echo of laughter that will never be heard again.
That is heavy.
Yeah,
it's such a powerful story. It hits on every parent's worst nightmare.
But here is where we need to shift gears.
Okay.
Because, as we said at the top, this is a deep dive. And we aren't just here for the fairy tale.
No. We need to look at the reality. This is where the tone has to change. Because this isn't just a story told to scare kids into behaving or to teach politicians to pay their bills.
Right. It's based on actual events.
It is. We are talking about the town of Hamelin in Lower Saxony, Germany, in the year 1284. Okay, so let's look at the historical record. Because usually with these legends like King Arthur or Robin Hood, the history is so murky. But here, there's actual documentation, right?
There is, and this is where it stops being a cartoon and starts being a true crime story, a real tragedy. The Hamelin town records have a specific entry, and I want to quote it exactly because the wording is haunting. It reads, "It is 100 years since our children left."
Since our children left. Wow, that gives me chills. It's so matter of fact.
That is.
It's not since the magic man came. It's a marker of time based on profound loss.
It is, and notice what isn't there in that record.
The rats.
Exactly, the earliest accounts, the primary sources. They mention no rats whatsoever.
Wait, really? The rats are the most famous parts, the whole motivation for the piper coming to town.
They are a later addition. They were added to the story much, much later, likely in the 16th century, to make the story more palatable or perhaps more metaphorical.
So if you take away the routes, if you take away the infestation, what do you have left?
You have a broken contract and a mass disappearance. That is the historical kernel. Something happened in 1284 that caused the youth of Hamelin to leave en masse, and they never came back.
Okay, so let's talk theories. If it wasn't a magic flute and giant rats, what was it?
Yeah.
Because 130 people don't just vanish into thin air.
Well, there are two main schools of thought that historians debate. The first one connects to the imagery of the rats that was added later.
The plague.
The Black Death. We know rats carry the plague. So the theory goes that the piper wasn't a musician, but a personification of death itself.
A grim reaper figure, leading the youth to their graves.
Exactly.
That makes sense symbolically. The skeleton with the flute, the dance of death imagery, the dance macabre, that was very popular in medieval art.
It does make sense in a literary way. It wraps everything up neatly. However, I have to critique that theory when we look at the timeline.
Why is that? Does the date not match?
The dates are way off. The Black Death didn't hit this region of Germany in force until the late 1340s, around 1349.
So more than 60 years later.
65 years, to be precise. The record specifically mentions 1284. Furthermore, the quote in the town records, "It is 100 years since our children left," implies a specific event, a singular moment of departure.
Right, a single day.
A plague is a slow burn. It comes in waves. It decimates a population over months or years. It doesn't typically result in the entire youth of a town walking out of the gates on a single morning.
That's a really good point. Left implies they went somewhere. Not just that they died in their beds. If they died of plague, they would be buried in the churchyard. They wouldn't have left.
Precisely. They would be gone or lost, but not left. The wording implies agency. It implies a journey.
Which leads us to the second theory.
And honestly, for our listeners who are into true crime or dark history, this is the darker theory.
Darker than the plague. That's a high bar.
In a way, yes, because the plague is nature. This theory involves human agency. It involves manipulation. It's the theory of the recruiter.
The recruiter. Okay, tell me about this.
We have to look at the economics of the 13th century. This was a time of massive population growth in Western Germany. There was famine. There was a lack of land. If you were a young person in Hamelin, you had no future.
You were stuck.
You couldn't inherit land because your older brother got it under primogeniture. You couldn't start a new farm because all the land was taken. You were essentially surplus population.
So it's a pressure cooker. Too many people, not enough resources.
Exactly. Meanwhile, in the East, places like Poland, Romania, Transylvania lords and kings wanted to settle new lands. They needed bodies. They needed labor to clear forests and build towns. This movement was called Ostsiedlung, or Eastern Settlement.
So they sent out recruiters to find workers.
They were called locators, and these locators were charismatic. They were essentially headhunters for colonization. They would go into towns wearing bright clothes, a splash of color in a gray world.
Just like the Piper.
Just like the Piper. And they would play music to gather a crowd in the town square. They would make speeches. They were professional salesmen.
They were selling a dream.
Exactly. Come with me to the East. The land is free. The taxes are low. You can build a new life. You can be free from the feudal bonds that hold you here.
So the Piper was a headhunter. He was a salesman with a flute.
Essentially. And the theory suggests that he didn't lead the children into a magical mountain. He led them to a life of hard labor. He led them on a long, dangerous journey into the harsh reality of colonization.
Wow. Okay, so let's reconsider the deal the parents made in the story, in this version.
It wasn't magic, it was poverty. It might have been a situation where the parents literally couldn't feed them, or perhaps the children, who might have been teenagers or young adults, anyone without land, chose to leave.
They saw the writing on the wall. No future here.
So they took a chance on the recruiter's promise.
That puts a whole new and much sadder spin on the broken contract.
It does. It suggests that the elite, the mayor, the town elders, had failed their people. They had created a society where the young had no future. They had broken the social contract. And so when the Piper came calling with a promise of something better, they left.
And they never came back.
No. Migration in the 1200s was a one-way trip. You didn't FaceTime home. You didn't visit for Christmas. You might send a letter once in a decade if you were lucky.
So did the parents left behind.
It would feel like death. Our children left. They were gone forever.
That is devastating. It removes the magic, but it adds this layer of real-world tragedy that is almost heavier. It means the parents watched them go.
Or perhaps the parents sold them. Some historians suggest the payment element in the story reflects a fee paid to the parents or the town to release the labor of their young people.
And then later, generations later, guilt sets in.
Exactly. We sold our children for a better life. That is a hard thing to live with. It's a collective trauma. So over generations, the story changes. It morphs.
You invent a magical reason to explain a terrible economic one.
It's the connection to the idea of the broken contract that I find most compelling here. Whether it's the magical version or the historical one, the core theme is exactly the same. The elite make mistakes, and the innocent pay the price.
Yeah. The mayor's arrogance triggers the tragedy. He thinks he can cheat the system. He thinks he can break a promise because he has the power. He treats the Piper as someone beneath him.
A disposable contractor.
But the Piper represents the check on that power.
A collection agency from hell, as the source puts it.
That is a perfect description. The Piper isn't a villain in the traditional sense then. He's a force of consequence. He represents the inevitable return of a debt. You cannot cheat the universe.
And the price. The price is always higher than the original bargain.
Always. The mayor tried to save 90 gold coins. And the cost of that greed was the entire future of his village.
It really makes you think about the flute, too. In the story, it's this beautiful instrument making beautiful music.
A symbol of something beautiful used for destruction. It's a fascinating duality. Music can heal, music can celebrate, But here, music is a weapon. It's a siren song. It lured them away from safety.
And in the historical version, the music is just a tool of manipulation, a way to gather a crowd and sell a lie. Or at least, a half-truth.
It's interesting how the story has evolved. We added the rats later. Why do you think we did that? If the historical reality was colonization or a tragic migration, why add the vermin?
I think you hit on it earlier. We needed a villain that wasn't us.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
Well, if the story is just our children left because we were poor and we couldn't offer them a future, that is a very hard story to tell. It's shameful. It's painful. It points the finger directly at the parents and the mayor.
It says, we failed.
Exactly. We failed them. But if you say a magical stranger with a flute stole them because we didn't pay him for killing rats, well, that's a tragedy, but it's an external one. It shifts the blame slightly. As an act of God or magic.
It turns a societal failure into a supernatural event.
Exactly. It makes the trauma easier to process. It gives you a monster to hate rather than having to look in the mirror and hate yourself. But the town records don't lie.
No, they don't.
It is 100 years since our children left. That silence in the record speaks volumes.
It really does. You know, we started this by asking what happened to the 130 children, and whether they died of plague or marched off to colonize the East. The result is the same for Hamelin.
The silence, the empty beds, the shoes that no one wears.
It's a haunting story, and it raises that question that the source mentions. What is the real price of a broken promise?
In the story and in history, it seems the price was everything.
So what does this all mean for us? Why are we still talking about this in the 21st century? Why does a medieval contract dispute still resonate so deeply?
Because we still make promises we don't keep. We still have leaders who think they can cheat the consequences. And we still have a world where the vulnerable often pay the price for the arrogance of the powerful.
The piper is always waiting in the wings.
In one form or another, the debt always comes due.
Well, that is a lot to think about. I don't think I'll ever look at a flute the same way again.
Or a rat, for that matter.
True. Or a recruiter in a bright suit.
As we close the gates of Hamelin today, I want to leave you with that thought from the source. A promise made is a debt unpaid.
And we are left with that lingering mystery. Did those children find a better world in the East? Did they build new lives? Or were they lost to the music forever? Were they just another casualty of expansion and greed?
We may never know for sure. But thanks for listening, LexiWibers. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think it was the plague, colonization, or something else entirely?
We can't wait to hear your theories. See you soon in our next descent into darkness.
Thanks for listening, LexiWibers. Please let us know your thoughts. See you soon.